You're listening to the Cash Podcast, creating affluence, success, and happiness with your financial surgeon, Adam Koch, President and Portfolio Manager at Libertas Wealth Management Group at libertaswealth.com.
All right, everyone. I'm here with Trent Dunlap, Vice President at HR Butler, one of the largest payroll, HR, and employee benefit firms in Central Ohio here. And normally when we do these podcasts, we're typically talking about the stock market or the state of the market, state of the economy, investment education. But considering the fact that we're going through this crazy time with the coronavirus, businesses being shut down, obviously it goes without saying that there's a lot of issues with healthcare, and our doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals are working their butts off and trying to stay ahead of this thing. And then those people on the front lines when it comes to the disease itself. But the reason I wanted to interview Trent is because there's a second front line, I think, when it comes to this virus, and that is the front lines as it pertains to businesses. So obviously, it goes without saying here, we've got 3 point something million unemployed last week. Today, the numbers came out this morning, so it's actually a perfect day to be doing this discussion with you, Trent. Over 6 million new unemployed this morning. So it's pretty rough out there, but I really wanted to hear what you had to say and kind of see what you're seeing out there and the business environment as you talk to your clients. I know you guys have about 1,000 clients that you work with, small businesses, large businesses, medium-sized businesses here in Central Ohio. So, maybe let's start with just talking about how your life's changed, with you at home and your family as a result of this whole coronavirus thing. I mean, you've got a bride, 2 young boys at home. Have you been working from home, and, has that been difficult?
We have been, yeah. So we've got a very small staff working at the office to be able to handle some of our payroll processing that has to be done manually. The majority of our staff has either been furloughed. We've had a minor part of our staff that was furloughed, and then we also had everyone else move to a work from home situation. So it has been interesting, to say the least, for me personally. I got a 9-month-old and a 4-year-old. So they keep me on my toes, and hopefully we won't hear them too much in the background here today. And then you're right with my wife. So we're hanging in there. We're healthy. We are blessed to be healthy and thankful for that. So I think I'm definitely very fortunate to be in the position that we're in at this point.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. Well, tell me, what kind of measures have you taken to try and, be more efficient in the whole, work from home world that we're living in these days?
Well, be more efficient. It's a whole new world, I definitely, in the past, did not do Zoom meetings 4 and 5 times a day, and was not sitting in on these large conference calls, listening to what is happening and how to better plan for our clients and make sure that we're informing our clients. There's a lot of data out there. It's a matter of trying to filter through what's happening and making sure we're providing accurate information for our clients. And it's unknown. It's uncharted territories, right? We've never been through this. And so there's a lot of unknowns, and I feel sometimes, I don't know if guilty is the right word, but when I'm talking to a client, it's like I can answer A, B, and I have to leave it there. We can't get through C, D, and E, or whatever that situation is. We can usually give them the beginning of it because we don't know what the rest of it's going to be.
Right. That's difficult. So, we've got clients who work with us that are also, physicians, surgeons, internists, general practitioners, clients, and they've been telling us about what's kind of things look like on the front lines as it pertains to the virus itself. But you, like I said earlier, you've got a pretty unique perspective, being that you handle, payroll, health insurance needs, HR needs for more than, 1,000 businesses in Central Ohio. So, with that front row seat, what do you feel like's going on economically speaking behind closed doors that maybe, the average Joe isn't seeing? What are you seeing out there? Are businesses struggling, or is it looking like things are just going to be fine and we're going to be back to normal in a matter of weeks? Or, what are you seeing?
Well, I hate to be a pessimist, I can tell you that. I would like to be the optimist and say that we can't wait for things to open back up and it's going to get right back to normal. Unfortunately, I do think it's going to be a long recovery process. As far as what's happening currently, what's happened here in the last week, 10 days, these businesses, especially the restaurants and the bar industry, the service industries, are just decimated, unfortunately.
Wow.
The restaurants basically were forced to close, as you all know.
Right.
And so most of those employees, most employers took the standpoint that they had to lay them off and put them on unemployment.
Yeah.
There's some restaurants out there that are able to do carry out. We definitely work with some pizza franchises and chains, and those folks are seeing increased numbers, which is fantastic.
I was wondering, I was going to ask you that actually, because I was curious if
yeah,
pizza places are used to this kind of business anyhow. So maybe it was better for
yeah,
them actually, but
I've
yeah.
heard the number I was given was up about 20%.
Wow.
That was one of our employers who owns a number of pizza locations, carry out type and delivery. So his business was doing great, which is great. Unfortunately, that's the minority of the groups. I was speaking with a construction company yesterday, and while they're deemed essential employees or essential employer, he was telling me about the difficulty that they've already had to cut back 25% of their staff.
Oh, wow.
And the main reason is that inspectors aren't able to inspect their work, and you can just go on and on and on. There's a trickle-down effect that's happening here, and I think we're going to continue to see it. And whether we like it or not, it's going to affect every business in turn.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of talked a little bit about companies laying off staff. And I think you and I had a conversation last week, actually, which is where we obviously decided we wanted to do this podcast. But I mean, to what magnitude are you seeing layoffs? I mean, are companies, are they not only laying off, but I mean, what's their plans for when things do eventually reopen? Are they planning on hiring everybody back, a percentage? I mean, are there companies that maybe aren't going to open their doors at all anymore? I mean, how's this going to go?
I wish I had a crystal ball, but there's a lot of business out there that a lot of people don't think about. Obviously, dental offices and vision doctors were shut down. The facial and hair care type businesses were also shut down. So there's a lot of people that had to, unfortunately, immediately lay off their staff. Now, some of these programs, part of the stimulus bill, is helping employers that have retained their staff to be able to help with some payroll and those types of things, and those loans will be forgiven. But that's only helping the people that are still running and actively have payroll. The fact of the matter is, I would love to say that business owners had the surplus of cash that they were able to just keep running payroll without having revenue coming in. The reality is that's just not the case. So yeah, it's a very difficult situation, and it's much further reaching than a lot of people think. And when we talk about the restaurant industry, all those companies that serve the restaurant industries, between uniforms and food supplies and you name it, all those folks are down. So, I think personally we're seeing the tip of the iceberg here on what's happening. I think that we're going to continue to see more companies struggle through. I would love to think that as soon as the light switch is flipped and businesses and our country's back to normal and our state, that businesses are able to open right back up. We know from our standpoint, our goal is to start to bring back those furloughed employees.
Sure.
We've been in a better position than a lot of companies in that we are an essential employer. We've been able to continue to have revenue coming in while we continue to process our employers' payrolls and employee benefits premiums. And so we've been able to keep our staff. And so now that furloughed staff, assuming we're able to receive this payroll loan program, we're going to bring that furloughed staff back almost immediately, which will be great.
That's awesome.
I don't know that all employers are in that same position though. You go to the construction companies, they've got to have the work to be able to bring those employees back. So if that work's not there, it's going to be tough to have that staff return.
It's like that trickle down effect you were talking about. I was just thinking the other day, I get a, email, typically once or twice a week in a text message from the company that, does my dry cleaning. And I kind of joked the other day about how I hope that if one good thing comes from all these Zoom meetings, maybe I'll never have to wear a suit again. But, the dry cleaning companies have got to be feeling the pain too, because nobody's going to work. Nobody's wearing suits right now. And, it's almost frowned upon to do a virtual meeting and to have a tie on. But anyway, I don't know. Is there any other industries that you're seeing this this kind of effect? And I mean, are you seeing that some companies just aren't going to reopen their doors at all when this is over with?
I hope that they all can, but I do think that there's going to be employers out there that just were not prepared, and maybe that's not the right way to say it, but they didn't have the assets in place to be able to support a turndown like this. And it's going to be a tough recovery for a lot of businesses, and some will definitely see it more. I think one of the things we're going to continue to see is, unfortunately, the restaurant industry and the bars and these places where folks are gathering in large quantities of people. It's going to be an even slower comeback. I think that when they do open the state and the federal, that those will still be things that possibly aren't opened up as quickly. Again, that's my personal opinion, but we will see.
That's interesting. Obviously, proof's in the pudding, as they say. When so when companies reduce their workforce and lay people off, you see it. At your company, like I said, you're on the front lines, front row seat to see the reduction in payrolls, right? But what about health insurance? I mean, what are your thoughts on the strain companies might be feeling right now with regard to paying their premiums? Are there any measures that can be taken to help lessen the blow? I mean, what are you seeing out there with regard to health insurance?
Well, I think that we're going to be interested to see if the federal government steps in and allows some or offers some support there. Here in the state of Ohio, Governor DeWine allowed a 60-day extension, essentially, a period where the employers will not lose or cancel their insurances, which is a fantastic thing. At the same time, it's just simply pushing back at due date. Right. It's not that those premiums have been forgiven. It's that those premiums are just being pushed back 60 days. So, that's in hope that the businesses are back open in 60 days and able to pay those premiums.
That's what I was just going to say. It's like, okay, so they don't have to pay their premiums for 2 months, but then when that third month arrives, they not only have the premium that's owed in the third month, but now they've got 3 premiums. They're all owed at once. And of course, the insurance companies have to feel it from a cash flow standpoint for those 2 months. And then, how many companies just aren't going to pay at all? And, again, there's another trickle down effect, right? So then you have now insurance companies that are losing revenue. And of course, I don't know how it works exactly. You probably know this a whole lot better than I do, but, they have to spread that revenue across the risk with all the other companies, of course, right? Wouldn't they need to do something with that loss of revenue? Whether it be obviously a reduction of a stock price, but maybe, I don't know, do they have to spread that loss of premium amongst the other companies through when renewals come about next time?
I mean, they're going to have to, whether it's the federal government coming in to help support that. The money's got to come from somewhere, right? And so I also just heard that everything coronavirus or COVID-19 related, as far as the testing and the claims that will be coming in, are going to be 100% paid with no deductibles to the insurance companies. That's an increased cost that they've never built into their premiums. Again, that money's got to come from somewhere. So is it going to be from I don't want to use the word bailout, but some type of stimulus package that comes from the government? Possibly. If not, I'm worried about what we see in our renewals next year. Right. We fight pretty hard to keep the renewals as low as possible. Are we going to see increased renewals? I think that's a strong possibility.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a crazy world, I think. And when it comes to protective measures like the ones you were talking about, I mean, if you were standing in front of a business owner right now, providing them with advice, I know this CARE Act was just passed, last week, and there's more pages in it than there are, minutes in the day, I feel like. But, if with stimulus packages, I think this is probably just the first of many stimulus packages. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be more than this coming out, as the months roll along here. But, what are you seeing out there right now that you might pass on to business owners that we know of so far anyway, that might help them through these rough times? And, with whether it be with the CARES Act or with any other stimulus package that you've been faced with in your industry.
I think the 2 loan programs are very important to get in line for the SBA loan program, which is already available, and then the PPP loan, which will be available tomorrow. Those are going to be some very important things, and employers got to take advantage of it. So the PPP loan, from what I understand and have read, is going to be a forgivable loan with criteria, of course, that those funds are going to support payroll, support rent, those types of things. It's more detailed than that, but that's kind of the summary. Where the SBA loan is going to be a long-term, again, my understanding, up to 30 years, and up to a $2 million loan.
Oh, wow.
That will need to be repaid. But at least that would give employers some operating money, a line of credit, if you would, to be able to keep the doors open, get through some of these hard times, and be able to open our doors once we return to work.
Is that the SBA one? Is that the one that the disaster recovery loan that they're calling?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And then there's the third one you mentioned. I think that's the if you own a commercial property, that there's potentially, I want to use that word, carefully, but potentially the opportunity to get a 6-month forgivable payments on your SBA loan if you own a commercial property. And then the other one, the payroll loan you mentioned. I think I read somewhere where there, again, you have to qualify, but it's something to the effect of they look back at 12 months of your payroll. They add it up and then they divide it by 12 and multiply times 2.5. So it's like 2.5 times your basically average monthly payroll over the trailing 12 months. Isn't that right? Or something like that?
Correct.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, you're right on point. Yep.
Okay.
So we've obviously been inundated with our clients reaching out to us to get the data, which is all from payroll, to be able to provide that so that they can try to apply for the loan tomorrow.
Okay.
To your point, you mentioned there's probably going to be more stimulus. I would agree. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. I know you, at least I don't think you do.
I do. It doesn't work. It's sitting right over here, actually.
I think that they're going to have to. I think that, we haven't seen the airlines addressed yet. We haven't seen the insurance companies addressed yet. So I think that these large companies, and even possibly the auto manufacturers, I don't know what with shutdowns and all of that, what that really does to everybody. But I think that we're probably a fraction of the way there, maybe a quarter of the way through the stimulus process. I think there'll be much more coming.
Well, you got to wonder, at least I do, when this ban is lifted and people can actually get out of their house, how many people are still going to be nervous, whether it be financially that, people have been laid off, they don't have as much income, so they don't have as much to spend. So maybe they don't want to go out and spend money anyway. But even if they did, then there's the emotional component where we've kind of, I don't know when this is going to be over with, obviously, but when we're done being stuck in our houses, at what point do we feel comfortable going outside when we're so used to that kind of cabin fever fear that that's kind of been spread throughout our country? It's going to be interesting.
I would agree. That's the thought is, okay, so yeah, now the worst is past us. Am I still safe to go out? Am I still safe to go to my neighbors? All those types of things. It's going to be an interesting recovery process for our country. But
gotta stay positive,
the United States
right?
of America is one of the greatest countries, if not, might be the greatest countries in the world. We're going to pull together and we're going to get through this as Americans.
Yeah, I think it probably gets, worse before it gets better. But I think when it does get better, we'll come back stronger than we've ever been, just like we always have. So I really appreciate taking the time out of your work from home life and the family to have this call. I hope that all our listeners kind of get a lot out of this. And I really appreciate you taking the time. Hopefully we do it again sometime soon.
Thanks a lot.
All right,
have a great one.
Trent. We'll see you.
Thank you for listening to the Cash Podcast with your financial surgeon, Adam Koch. To see any charts or images that were mentioned in this show, or to check out additional articles, videos, and other educational resources, head over to libertaswealth.com.